Hey gang, so today we're looking at something that is right out of my childhood fantasies. It is the Sinian by GoBigger. I gotta say, this is one of the coolest little pieces of tech fidget gear and fun. I know that was terrible grammar. I don't care, I can say whatever I want. It's my show. So this thing ratchets, it clicks, it spins, it's got like all kinds of stuff in it. So this is gonna be a longer video. It's gonna take a while to take this apart because there are a lot of moving parts to it. And I have to say, some of them get loose. It comes with its own set of problems, but trust me, you're gonna wanna watch me suffer through taking this thing apart because there is a lot to do on this and I'm gonna do it so you don't have to. All right, it's the Sinian by GoBigger. Let's go. Okay, here we go. Now, this is gonna be a long one. I will say that I've taken this apart before, and it's not fun. So we're gonna go through this together. I'm gonna do this because I love you guys, and I know a lot of you like to watch me suffer as I take this apart to save you from future suffering. So that's what we're gonna do. Now, there is a flaw with this fidget. As much as in the intro, it's cool because it definitely is. The problem is it has a weakness, and that weakness is this little part right here that this little shield is supposed to rotate back and forth. The problem is it constantly gets loose. So what happens is you start playing with it and then see how it like, now I get it to move, but it sticks if it's a certain angle, because you see how this whole ring is moving right here. Let me see if I can get up. Okay, that's not supposed to move. That's supposed to be secured in here by a screw. So what happens is the whole sort of pin that moves through here gets loose. So let's open it up and we will see what's going on, what you have to tighten, and how many pieces this thing separates into. A lot. Okay, so you can start by taking this off either side. And I've seen a lot of people actually take off both sides. So let's just start. We only have two screws, one screw on this side, one screw on that side, and these plates are held together magnetically. So nothing's gonna pop off even when you take the screw off. See, screws out. It's not coming off. And that's because it is in here magnetically. So let's see what happens here. We just take one off. And the magnet is here. And that's it. We just pull and this comes right out. Now, you can see we've got a set of magnets here along this track, and those magnets are for this piece as it slides back and forth like that. And you can actually see it working on the other side. Now, once we have this apart, like so, this is also held together magnetically. So all we have to do is lift that magnet off, it slides right out. So this whole piece comes apart very, very easily. And you can see we've got in here, now this is what you do have to be careful of. When you start taking this thing apart, you don't want to take both screws apart right away, because if you do, this then comes completely loose, and the issue is this ratchet sound is because there is a spring and ball in here, and that spring is pushing the ball out that way. So imagine if we had just taken both sides apart, this would have just come apart totally free, and then those pieces would have come straight out. So let's put this down for a second. And we're just going to kind of get our bearings. Now, what we see in here is we have this post. So we have a post here and it's loose. If I were to tighten this up, now let me see here. I'm usually very prepared with my tools here. Let me just get the proper tool out. Okay, so we have, or I have, no, we don't, there's no we in this. Let me open this up. I have a little baggie with the tools that have come with it. Now, I'm only going to use this key. This is always kind of a handy one to have, though. This is like a, it's a little turning key here, and it's actually got a picture of the GoBigger. Oops. There we go. Right on it. So this works in two ways. We can see we've got a short groove and a long groove. When we line up both grooves together, okay? So if we line up both grooves together, that allows you to put the tool in and turn both at the same time. So if I were to tighten like this, and I tightened, now this behaves the way it should. Sort of. Because what's happened is there's a really annoying little ratchet piece in here that has come loose. So this should be like a little ball and it should snap into place, and we'll see it soon. Don't worry. So let's take this apart so you guys can see what I am talking about. So I'm going to put the key in and I'm going to loosen it, and I'm going to turn everything in the same direction. Now sometimes you lose kind of the track, so you have to take the key off and put it back down. Sorry, take, you know, like you got to, like this. See how I kind of slipped? So you stop, realign it, and just start turning again. And again, we're doing this because we want to take the pin out from inside. So inside here is this little ball. And I'll show you where that goes in a minute. But let's take out the pieces. We've got this. And we have in here, you can see that that little ball that popped out, okay, this is super, super tiny. Now, sorry, that's probably way too bright, but that little ball right there, super, super tiny. And what that does is that goes inside here, and there's a little spring in there that has not come out, thankfully, but I can show you. All right, so really, really like super tiny pieces here. So this spring goes inside here, and see the little track with the ball? So what happens is when this is lined up, this little black screw kind of ratchets from one side to the other. And it's just supposed to do this. Now if we put the ball in there, and then we have our little track lined up, now this sounds terrible because nothing is pushing against it the way it should be pushed. But this screw right here, this little post, is the one that comes loose all the time. I shouldn't say all the time, but it does come loose and it screws into here. So what we are going to do when we are finished this is put a touch of Loctite in there. Also because I tend to sell stuff a lot after I review it. And this is something, obviously, if I'm going to pass this on to someone else, I want to make sure that it's, you know, it's working in good condition and that it's not going to come apart on them. So inside here, this piece, here, let me move the ball off for now. We can even see a little tiny screw there, which kind of attaches this whole housing together. So let me find the right bit. There we go. Now it also actually, I mean, all the tools are here, right? We've got this little guy right here. This little spring took a trip. Let me make sure I put that spring back. All right, so as you can see, the issue, well, I shouldn't say as you can see, but as you may be able to tell, when I'm turning this, it doesn't matter how often I turn it. It's not going to get any tighter or looser because the piece on the end turns as well. So what you actually do is you have to screw it counterclockwise. Screwing it counterclockwise tightens it. So that's just one of these interesting little pieces of information. If you're messing around with this and it's not working, that's why. So turn it the other direction and then you'll actually tighten up. Okay, so we have this piece. Now I'll set this aside. This gets tricky. If this comes apart, it took me a little bit the first time I opened this up to figure out how the pieces were meant to be put back together. So I'm going to take it apart to show you. If you ever get this apart into a whole bunch of pieces. Okay, so we have the open end goes here, or let's say here. Then this little piece gets kind of tricky. So this can unscrew. And that's how you would get your bearing off. Now, I'm not going to take this apart. I'm not going to unscrew this one because, frankly, I mean, I don't need to take all 500 pieces off for you to see what's going on. Just know that to get the bearing off, you would just unscrew here. And then remember that this line has to line up with this side. So once this is in here, this is what you want it to look like. Okay, so use this as your reference. Match the kind of the cross cut. And on this side, we have the rest of our sort of our post sticking out. Now also, just as a matter of interest, this is the tuning part. So when you hear that the little like ping, it's actually coming from this. And it's because it's metal, but it's got this spacer around it. So if you ever, I don't know, if you don't like the sound of the ping and you know that you're keeping this and that this is yours, you could, well, I don't know if you can do anything, but I guess you could actually just take a pair of wire snips and you could literally just cut. So let's see, let's get this up to the camera. This is very, very thin metal. So you could just cut here and here, cut on both sides because there's like a solid post there. But if you were to cut here and then cut here and here, you could get rid of this altogether. Now you'd have to sand it down because you'd end up with a little bit of a sharp piece of metal, but you wouldn't get that pinging sound anymore. I'm not a fan of the ping. I'm really, really not. All right, so remember, we line up these pieces and then we flip this over and we line up these pieces. And now we have this ready to go. And we will put in a tiny bit of Loctite before we do that. So with this piece, what's nice is we can attach this whole system independently of this side. Because once it's together, it's its own piece. So we're going to leave this for now, leave this section. And again, we're just going to focus on here. This gets a little tricky because what happens is we're going to put the slightest amount of blue Loctite in these threads because what we don't want is the Loctite to seep out when we put pressure on here and then leak into the sides. So what I want to do first is let's get some Loctite. Ta-da! And we use blue because blue is kind of the weakest, so it's the easiest to break open. Now, the first thing I'm going to do, once the Loctite is on here, you're kind of cooked. So, I mean, you're not cooked, but it makes such a mess. So what I want to do is practice how I'm going to put this piece together. And I'm going to do that a couple of times. So the trick with the way this goes is, see how I have my finger here and I'm pushing already? I'm going to put that down. If I just put this on here, if I take this piece and let's pretend that the spring and the ball are here, and I take it and I put it down. It's very tricky for me to line this up with the ball and spring properly because there's no weight on it. It's not really sitting in its place properly. Whereas if I do this and then set it in right away, there's less that can go wrong because everything's already in place. Sometimes if I have the Loctite and the thread, I have the ball and the spring, and I just kind of gently put that on, and then I hold it in place, and then I try to line this up. And if something goes wrong, I've just got too many pieces, I find. For me personally, too many pieces to worry about. If I stack this whole thing together, and I take this, and I line it up, like so, and I put it on, but I'm going to have to be careful with it because I got a ball and a spring on here, and I just put it down and I push it down, then everything is in place. And then all I have to do is take this full piece and start screwing it in. That's how I like to do this. And I've taken a lot of these apart, more than I can count. So I feel like I do have a bit of experience doing that. I know there are others that do as well. So let's go through it. We're going to take our spring. Put the spring in place. This is probably the absolute trickiest part. Spring in the ball. Because of that. Now, I do have tweezers that I could use. The issue is the ball is so small that there's a good chance that putting too much pressure on the tweezers or the wrong amount of pressure on the tweezers will just send the ball flying. So sometimes I find it's better to know ahead of time what to use and what not to use. Like I like to plan it out so that I know this is so small, I'm not going to bother with the tweezers unless it goes flying somewhere and I have to pick it up. And if I can't manipulate it with my fingers, then sure. But until that happens, I'm going to try to stay away from the tweezers. Okay, so here we go with the Loctite. Now this scares a lot of people because they think it's permanent. And I mean, I get it. I understand. But you don't really have to be afraid of Loctite. Not the blue stuff, at least. The blue stuff really has no... It's a very, very soft hold. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put just a little bit on toothpick. Now I always keep, see that? That's why I have that piece of paper there. It's the one thing when dealing with Loctite, it comes out faster than you think. Now I'm going to use a toothpick. Sometimes I find a toothpick will do it for me. Other times it's a Q-tip. Problem with some Q-tips is that they absorb the Loctite as you put it on. So I like these little cleaning. These are kind of like a cleaning kit. And then I'll just sort of swab. Again, I don't want to put on a lot, right? Just enough to kind of get into the threads like that. I'll just kind of press it up against the threads. Okay, so that's it. I just want enough in there that it's just a little sticky. And now, make sure I'm lined up correctly. So this little black square goes into the opening. And I'm going to put it flat down because I have to remember that that ball and spring is there. And then I'm going to turn the whole thing together. I think we're almost done. There we go. So you can see that that ball and spring is causing this like ratchet. It's not really a ratchet, but it's like it clicks over into different positions. It has no bearing whatsoever on the action of the spin. At one point I thought, oh, is that like a lock? Does it lock and unlock? No. Okay, so I'm in there tight. My spinner works. I don't know what we're going to call this little shield, but it clicks through. And then we'll let it sit for a second just to let the Loctite kind of take effect. I'm going to put this away. Always clean up your workspace. Okay, now one thing I gotta say is I need to apologize. I didn't realize how dirty my fingernails were. So let's just not look at my fingernails. Okay, now this is the second piece. So these are two completely separate pieces. Now this piece, as we can see, has a ball and spring in here, and that gives us this ratchet sound. Now, it's fighting to come out, so we're going to take it out. It's also just held together by a magnet. So this whole little piece gets weirdly sort of dependent on each other. This magnet here is holding this piece together, and the ball and spring are kind of, there's a little bit of leverage from the ball and spring that's keeping this in place. So the whole thing is just ready to come apart. So let's just do that. Little magnet. Okay, I'm going to take this piece off. Now, when I take this piece off, what is important is I'm going to hold this middle piece in place. Because again, remember, there's a ball and spring in there, and it wants to come out. Now we have the other side open, and again, you can see everything at this point is very, very precarious. It is waiting to explode on me here. So I'm going to move this now. As I lift, this piece off, you can see right in here, we can even see the spring pushing out. So there is a spring, okay? And I know that inside that spring, we're going to see a ball. So let's just get it out. There it is. Oh, it's a little glass bead. Right there. Let's get the spring over here. Okay. So we have our little glass bead. Now, the glass bead is what gives us that ratchet sound. But we can also take out... Okay, so this is just pressure fit. And it's the actual pay part, or the ultim part of the ring. So that comes off. And then we get this big old bearing in here. Or actually two. So you can see it comes with two different bearings. One on each side, and then we've got our little middle piece. That's it. And there's a bearing on this side. Now, if we needed to, we could actually unscrew this part as well. There's a little hole in here, but really, there's no point. It doesn't get us anywhere. And in a lot of cases, I find if you can take something like this apart for a little bit of time and get it back together, there's no need to go any further. Also, just to show you this little ridge here, that's where the ball is grinding against the little glass bead. So, put it back in. And then once we have it back in place, again, this is just kind of pressure fit. A lot of times people think it's stuck and won't open, and it just takes a little bit more, like you're really pressing flat on each side and then trying to turn. Okay. So we got this together. So now we know this actually cannot come apart. That's how we get. Okay, little. All right. So remember, this goes up here. So what we can do is start by, see this magnet goes into this hole. This is the putting it back together journey. Okay. There we go. So this is back in its proper place. And we've got our little area for a ball and spring. And then once we put that back together, we will put this on here. So ball goes in first. In it goes. And then our spring. Sorry, I'll get my hands out of the way to show you here. Now this is tricky because we have a magnet here on the side. And it wants to just jump right to that magnet. So this is one thing you have to watch out for. I'm going to try to, maybe I can just kind of coerce it in gently, right? I'm going to move it very gently because I don't want to bend the spring. There we go. Once I have that in place, I'm going to hold it down, hold it tightly, and I am going to put in my first screw. Once I put in that first screw, I can kind of relax. I can let this whole thing go. And we are in place. Yeah. I just want to make sure that this is where it should be, and it is. We're good. Okay, so now we have this piece, and remember, this piece does not screw in. It just attaches magnetically. So just line it up, and this piece has the magnets in it, and they will ride along here. And then that's in place. And we get our last edge, we'll call it. And that's it. So now our little clicker is doing what it should. It's not even a clicker. Again, it's just something you move to the side. And if you use enough force, this shoots out. And that clang, like we said, is from the ring. So if you want to get rid of that clang, you can just cut these little ring pieces off. But again, you would have to do something, something to kind of get rid of the sharpness to dull this down. So you'd probably have to sand it down, and you may not be able to sell it. Right? That's the issue with most fidgets, I find, is that people kind of get a little bit of tunnel vision with their fidgets. I'm not saying everybody, but just, you know, a lot of people kind of get something, they'll mod it, thinking, oh, I love this, I'm going to keep it forever. And it's like all of a sudden money gets tight or something cooler comes out, and, you know, that thing you want to keep forever, all of a sudden you're like, maybe I don't need it anymore, but man, I just changed it, I ruined it, I did something to it, and now I can't sell it as well. So it's just something to consider. If you are absolutely sure this is something you're going to keep forever, and you don't like that pinging sound, that's the rings. You can just get rid of these rings. Again, just kind of like wire snips even. It's very, very thin. You can just cut the edges off, but you'll notice the middle part you'll have to keep on. I think we already kind of looked at that, but just in case. So again, once you get the Loctite in there, this thing is pretty awesome once it's put together. It feels really cool in your hand. This is this little ratchet. So good. And I find, depending on how I hold it, I put this shield up to kind of protect my thumb. So, because this open space sometimes when you go to close it, see where my finger is? That's the only flaw with this, is that when you close it, pinch. So that's something you have to get really careful about. And yeah, you can do it like this, but that's probably the safer way to do it. But it is just, again, your finger always kind of travels to that pinch point. So even if I've done this before, I've been going really fast, not thinking about it, and I close it with my palm, but my thumb is here, and I just get right in there. But even look at this, it still found a pinch. So it's one of those things where this can help protect your finger, depending on how it's positioned. Again, it's a very, very cool piece, a very intricate piece. It's not that scary when you take it apart and you get used to something, you know, it's fine. It's just the first time, the unknown. It's like, what's going to happen when I take this apart? Are things going to go flying? Now you know. Now I've done it. Don't worry about it. Don't ever take it apart if you don't have to, though. That is the one piece of advice I'll give you, is leave it. This did come with some spare balls. Now, I got this secondhand, so I can't say what else may have come with this, but these are all kind of the parts that did come with it. So we got magnets, we got replacement steel balls, we got one replacement glass bead. So I can only imagine that is what would come with the Fidget. All right, gang. Thanks for watching.